Story 1. The Late Night Convenience Store. Intro, fast-paced, tense tone. Most people think the scariest part of working the night shift is the exhaustion. They think it's the quiet hours between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m., where time seems to stretch. But they're wrong. The scariest part is when you realize you aren't actually alone. My name is Liam, and back in 2022, I worked at a 24-hour convenience store right off a lonely highway in upstate New York. It was a boring job, mostly stocking shelves and selling coffee to tired truck drivers. It was a rainy Tuesday night around 3:15 a.m. The rain was hammering against the glass doors. The highway outside was completely pitch black. I was behind the counter scrolling on my phone, just waiting for my shift to end. Suddenly, the electronic chime at the door rang out. Ding dong. I looked up, expecting a customer, but the door was closed. There was no one there. I shrugged it off, thinking maybe the wind tripped the sensor, but 5 minutes later, it happened again. Ding dong. This time, I stood up and looked out the massive front windows. Outside, standing right underneath the flickering neon sign of the gas pump, was a man. He was wearing a dripping wet, outdated yellow raincoat. His head was tilted down so his face was completely hidden in the shadow of his hood. He wasn't moving. He was just staring straight at the store. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I locked the front door from behind the counter using the remote buzzer. I didn't want him coming in.
For 10 straight minutes, he didn't blink, didn't move an inch. He just stood in the pouring rain. Then the power went out. The entire store plunged into total darkness. The backup generator kicked in 3 seconds later, turning on a single dim emergency light right above my head. I looked back out the window. The man in the yellow raincoat was gone. I breathed a sigh of relief, but then I heard it. A soft, wet squelching sound coming from the back of the store, like wet shoes walking on linoleum. Squeak, squeak, squeak. My heart hammered against my ribs. The back door was locked from the inside. How did anyone get in? I grabbed the heavy metal flashlight from under the counter and called out, "Hello? Store's closed. You need to leave." No answer, just the sound of slow footsteps moving down aisle 3. I crept toward the aisle, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the flashlight. I rounded the corner and shone the beam down the aisle. There he was, the man in the yellow raincoat. He was standing at the very end of the aisle, his back turned to me. Water was pooling rapidly around his boots. "Hey man, how did you get in here?" I demanded, trying to sound brave. Slowly his head began to turn. Not just his head. His neck twisted at an unnatural, sickening angle. A loud crack echoed through the empty store. When his face finally met the flashlight beam, my breath caught in my throat. He didn't have eyes, just empty, black, hollow sockets. And his mouth was stretched into a wide, impossible smile that tore at the edges of his lips.
He didn't speak. He just took one massive, sudden step toward me. I didn't think. I dropped the flashlight, sprinted back to the counter, unlocked the front door, and ran out into the pouring rain. I didn't stop running until I reached a well-lit diner a mile away. The police went to the store an hour later. They found the front door wide open, my flashlight on the floor, and a puddle of water in aisle. He didn't speak. He just took one massive, sudden step toward me. I didn't think. I dropped the flashlight, sprinted back to the counter, unlocked the front door, and ran out into the pouring rain. I didn't stop running until I reached a well-lit diner a mile away. The police went to the store an hour later. They found the front door wide open, my flashlight on the floor, and a puddle of water in aisle 3. But the security cameras showed something that still keeps me awake at night. According to the footage, when the power went out, no one ever entered the building. I was alone the entire time. Outro, tense music fades out. If you want to hear the next 2 stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Sleep tight.